Good evening. Tonight, I wanted to talk to you about the Flatwoods Monster. The Flatwoods Monster is really fascinating to me because we've heard reports, countless reports of Bigfoot, many reports of Dogman, and other strange cryptids over the years, and Thunderbirds, and Pugwudgies, and all sorts of different things. But the Flatwoods Monster strikes me as such a one-off, but multiple witness, but very strange account. So, as you can see pictured behind you, it doesn't fit the description of about anything else you've ever going to see, which is why I think it's so fascinating. So, you get a little background geography-wise. Flatwoods is a very small town, pretty much like a village in West Virginia. And it's kind of, not really near the coast. It's kind of a very rural farming, very thick wooded area. It's closer to some bigger cities like most on the East Coast. But where this place is, it's pretty out there. Now, I went to West Virginia years ago for a family reunion. I got to say, it's absolutely gorgeous. I've never seen such thick woods and old farmlands, and a lot of history there, too. Now, Flatwoods is very close. One of the major landmarks that should be interesting to you guys is it's not far from Point Pleasant. Now, Point Pleasant, as a lot of you know, is home to the famous Mothman and the Mothman sightings, the big whitish, or sometimes described as dark-colored, glowing red eye winged creature like a giant, horrible vampire bat. And that's many tragedies in the past have been associated with. So I find it very interesting that this part, especially near on the border of Ohio, there a lot of UFO sightings, lots of very strange phenomenon, lots of lights in the skies. I know Ohio with their grassman nearby. There's lots of Bigfoot, Dogman activity, lots of UFO sightings. Like I said, strange lights. And then you got like Loveland, Ohio, like the Loveland Frog, and a lot of other strange stuff. It's a pretty fascinating area. And I think being one of the first areas settled, there's a lot going on there and a lot of history. Now, most people do associate the Flatwoods Monster as some kind of an alien, as opposed to some kind of a natural creature cryptid. And we're going to get into that here. But let's take a look at the story first. So the story is really quite fascinating. There's a group of boys out one night, getting around dusk, dark, and they're playing around as boys do, especially back in the day when before video games and all that. So they were out running around, riding bikes, doing their things, when all of a sudden this group of boys saw a bright flash in the sky. And they're like, whoa, what is that? As you could imagine, because this is before, airplanes and helicopters, and they didn't hear any airplane or helicopter type noise. So they said, well, what is that? And it looked like a craft landed up on this hillside, up on this farmland. And they all knew the area and roamed around as boys do. So they ran home, and one of them grabbed their mom and told them about what was going on. Their dog went with them. And grabbed the mom and grabbed a flashlight, which I can imagine what a 1950s flashlight was like. And they ran out into the woods, and they encountered this strange fog that the dog got really sick from and later died from, and made them feel ill. And they came across this giant, looked like a weird upside down heart-shaped head with glowing red eyes and like a steel dress. I don't know how else to describe it. That was like hovering off the ground creature. Now, some reports said that they saw arms. Other reports said they didn't. I guess all sorts of people all over the town either saw the craft or saw a bright light. And I guess after these main group of boys, and with the mom, which is a good corroborating evidence, because 4 or 5 boys ran back and said they saw an alien, you'd probably be like, give me a break. But I guess other people also encountered this monster that evening, or whatever it is. It's to me, always struck me as very oddly feminine, but with like a steel exoskeleton and glowing red eyes. And I guess they did report there was a craft nearby that had landed. So very interesting. And I guess multiple people saw the craft. So the whole town knew about it. And it's very famous there today, by the way. Here's the mother, and with the drawing that she came up with and the artwork of what they saw, which seems to be most of the renditions and recreations. It's actually a big tourist thing for them. What was the Flatwoods Monster? And it's a big thing, as you can imagine, in this town, and a big part of their history. Now, as you can see, it's pretty interesting when she got a guy in there for scale, and the clawed arms and the glowing eyes and kind of this metallic dress looking thing. very bizarre. And the fact that multiple people saw a craft, multiple people saw the lights, multiple boys saw this thing. The dog died of some noxious gas that it was putting out. The mom corroborated it. Other people report seeing the creature as well. Very odd. So the big question is, what the heck was this thing that these kids encountered? This being or robot or creature or humanoid, whatever you want to call it. That seems to be the big question. Now, if you get into the non-paranormal side and the non-weirdo type explanations and you try to just go completely common sense, modern, aliens don't exist, monsters don't exist type explanations, a lot of them said that, it could have been a meteor, or when it hits the ground, it's a meteorite, or it could be, some kind of a shooting star or comet. I guess it's very common there. And people said that swamp gas can be very noxious sometimes, and there are natural gas springs and oil and all sorts of stuff around that area, so maybe they encountered something or some kind of a sewage spill. And a lot of people said that simply that maybe they saw an owl. That was one of the big things reported, is that, they get I don't know if they have great horned owls there, but I know they have really big owls there on the East Coast, but maybe someone saw an owl in a tree next to a stump or something, and they shined a poor 1950s flashlight on it, and there was some kind of swamp gas or some kind of a leak. One of the other things for the craft, though, is maybe it was some kind of weird Russian craft, some kind of a hybrid boat thing, some kind of a plane thing, some kind of a helicopter, because back in the 1950s, early 1950s, they had helicopters, but they were kind of unknown then. A lot of people didn't know it, and maybe this was the Cold War was ramping up, so pretty much the Russians were to blame for everything, and especially after World War II, when they were really experimenting with all sorts of different flight, and America was experimenting, and the Russians were experimenting, and the jet and rocket age was upon us, and UFOs were all the craze, and little green men, so maybe it was some kind of experimental aircraft that crashed there, and something that the government was trying to keep under wraps, something that maybe it was the newest generation of fighter that never came about. Who knows? There was a lot of developments in the 50s, and maybe after the plane crashed, it was some kind of exoskeleton or something that a human was in, something to kind of, like some kind of advanced G-suit or something else, and maybe it just appeared to be hovering, or, how things get exaggerated in stories. It was 6.5 feet tall. No, it was 6.5, 7 feet tall. No, it was 8 feet tall, and who knows? So maybe it was an experimental craft. Maybe it was a meteorite. Maybe it was an owl they saw. I tend to doubt it. I tend to believe people being in this world and the crypto world. The thing that strikes me is a lot of the alien people out there will know that the description of this creature really doesn't fit like what they would call a reptoid, or the Nordics, or the small greys, or the large greys, or the insectoids, and all the different species of aliens that are reported to exist out there, unless one of them, like I said, is in some kind of a biomechanical suit or an exoskeleton or some kind of, man-sized escape pod. Anyway, very fascinating. Small Town Monsters, I just watched it the other day, put out Legacy of Fear, the Flatwoods Monster by Small Town Monsters and Seth Breedlove. He does a great job. I actually really enjoyed it. I did a full review on my other channel. If you haven't been to my other channel yet, I suggest you go check it out. I'll show a link to that there in a second. But yeah, I really liked the documentary. It was good. It wasn't overly long. It was about 45 minutes, which was great. If you go to Mattsquatch Reviews, there's a link in the description below, or you can put in Mattsquatch and you'll see my other videos. This is just book reviews, movie reviews. Eventually want to do some other stuff too, but go check out that channel. There's a quick review on it. I'll probably post 1 or 2 things a week up there. Something else I'm trying out, just because I don't want to always put reviews and kind of non-Bigfoot stuff in here. So the thing that got me is the Flatwoods Monster near the Mothman, near Ohio, where they have the Ohio Grassman and the Loveland, Ohio, Loveland Frog, and all this different, that whole area, just very creepy, lots of cryptid sightings now. I don't know what's going on. I find this case very fascinating. Go check out the documentary. There are books written about it. If you're ever in the area of West Virginia, go check it out. I'd love to. The town looks like they have quite a hoot with all the little gift shops and tours, and you can talk to people who were alive back then, and it was very cool. So if you feel I deserve it, please give this video a like. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe and ring the little bell next to it. Thank you very much, folks, and stay safe in the woods.